You tell people too much too quickly. Not because you're attention-seeking, not because you're dramatic, but because some part of your brain believes honesty can create safety before trust actually exists. And the strange part is, you usually realize it after the conversation ends, on the drive home, while lying in bed, or while replaying your own words in the shower. You suddenly think, why did I tell them all that? And even when the other person reacted kindly, something still feels exposed. Like you handed someone a map to rooms inside yourself they never earned access to. So why does this happen? Why do some people instinctively reveal deeply personal things almost immediately, while others take months to open up? The answer has less to do with social skills and more to do with how your nervous system learned to survive connection. But to understand that, you first have to understand what oversharing actually is, because most people define it completely wrong. Oversharing is not simply talking too much. A lot of people talk a lot without revealing anything real. Oversharing is different. It's emotional acceleration.
The brain adapts. It learns that emotional intensity creates connection faster than gradual trust does. And that adaptation follows you into adulthood, without you realizing it. Which is why oversharing often happens automatically, before conscious thought even catches up. But there's another layer underneath this that most people never notice, and it explains why oversharing can feel almost compulsive. Reframe. You are not broken for doing this. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It's improvising. Oversharing is often an attachment strategy, a nervous system shortcut designed to reduce emotional distance as quickly as possible. Because somewhere in your past, slow connection may not have felt emotionally reliable. Visual child standing outside a closed door. For some people, emotional attention only appeared during crisis, not during calm moments, not during ordinary conversations. So the brain quietly learned something dangerous. If I reveal something deeply personal, people stay engaged. That becomes encoded as a social survival pattern. Not consciously, neurologically. The brain starts linking vulnerability with immediate emotional bonding, even when the environment no longer requires it. And this is important to understand. Oversharing is not a character flaw. It's often a nervous system trying to create safety too quickly. The problem is, fast emotional intimacy creates the illusion of connection.
But because the emotional pacing skipped important stages of trust, your nervous system later realizes this person has access to emotional parts of me that still don't feel safe. That realization creates vulnerability anxiety, which leads to regret, withdrawal, overthinking, and emotional self-judgment. This is why oversharing often has less to do with communication and more to do with emotional regulation. You're not just sharing information, you're trying to calm uncertainty inside your nervous system. But calming uncertainty too quickly often creates even more of it later. So the real goal is not becoming emotionally closed off. It's learning how to pace emotional safety. And that changes everything. Practical framework. The first step is learning to notice emotional acceleration while it's happening, not afterward. A useful question is, am I sharing to connect or to relieve anxiety? That single distinction matters enormously. Because genuine connection feels grounded. Anxiety-driven sharing feels urgent, fast, almost impulsive. If you notice urgency, pause for 10 seconds before continuing. That pause interrupts automatic nervous system behavior. Psychologically, this works because it re-engages the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reflection instead of emotional impulse. For example, imagine someone casually asks about your past relationships. Instead of immediately explaining your deepest heartbreak, you answer one layer at a time. You let trust earn access gradually. Not because you're hiding, but because pacing creates safety. The second step is tolerating incomplete oversharing. This is difficult for people who overshare, because partial emotional distance can feel almost physically uncomfortable. But healthy relationships do.
Journaling helps. Long walks help. Voice notes to yourself help. Not because these magically solve emotions, but because they reduce internal emotional pressure before social interaction begins. A regulated nervous system feels less urgency to emotionally spill outward. And finally, practice surviving small moments of emotional ambiguity without immediately fixing them. This is where real change happens. When someone takes longer to reply, when a conversation feels uncertain, when you don't fully know what someone thinks about you, pause. Do not rush to emotionally explain yourself. Your nervous system needs evidence that uncertainty is survivable. That is how emotional pacing becomes natural instead of forced. And finally, at its core, oversharing is often an attempt to build emotional safety through speed. But safety built too quickly rarely feels stable. At its core, oversharing is often an attempt to build emotional safety